Hey,
Hi.
hi, Rashmi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for coming. We'll introduce ourselves very briefly. We are two of the three co-founders of FlexiBees. I am Shreya, and that's my co-founder Rashmi.
Hello.
And we yeah. So FlexiBees, as some of you may be knowing, is talent platform wherein we provide part-time and project-based talent to businesses. A lot of them are startups via qualified women professionals who want to work flexibly and who want to return back to work. So that's who we are. And we to give you an introduction of the topic. So yeah, best practices of managing remote teams, and we are very invested in this subject, and for various reasons. Uh, because of course we provide remote talent. Remote working is an integral part of the offering of flexible talent. It enables businesses in multiple ways to keep their to be able to access really good talent, to keep their cost structures lean. It also enables our pool of women to be able to utilize their talent and their skills in the best possible manner, in a way that leaves them time to also balance their personal lives. And of course, a lot of people today, not just women, are buying into this philosophy. So we are very invested in remote working for that reason, but also for the reason that we ourselves at FlexiBees, we are a remote first company. We've been remote since day one. We have around 21 people who are working, including us co-founders, and we are distributed across different cities in India, in fact, even across different countries. So we believe in it, we live it, and we when COVID hit, we quickly put together a guideline, which I'll flash on screen briefly. Quickly put together, yeah, this guideline. Of course, there is more material behind it. There's an article around which explains some of these points better, but we wanted to create a snapshot in the form of an infographic so that it could reach further. And we spoke about some of the ways in which companies can transition to remote working in a seamless manner. It was a time that there was a lot of chaos, of course, and a lot of companies who'd never experienced it were having to work remotely for the first time. So we thought it was right for us to talk about our expertise at that time. So today we will be referring to some of these points, but of course now, given we are 6 months into the pandemic, unfortunately, we will bring in some of the flavor of how things may have evolved or needs may have evolved. So we'll have a very informal chat around it, Rashmi and I. We want to keep it a little informal so that you guys also get the benefit of our, of some examples that we can talk about of our experience. And of course, in the last 20 minutes of the session, we can take questions and answer anything that you guys may have on your mind. So, okay, Rashmi, do you want to say something before we begin?
No. I think this is a
Okay.
new format for us.
Okay, great.
Okay, I don't think we've done this many times, but uh, great intro, and I think we can just dive in, Shreya. Maybe you can
Yeah.
start off, and then I'll jump in where. Yeah. that-
Okay.
yeah.
Sure. Okay. Great. So a few days back, we ran a poll with some of the clients and businesses that we have in our network, where we wanted to know what about remote working is say a pain point at this point in time, at this juncture. And one of the things that people wrote to us about was the fact that there is some challenge around managing the time and priorities for their teams. So
Mm.
this is then something that we want to talk about, and we talk about it from different angles. So as far as the business lens goes, as far all of us are say from the business end over here, and we want to make sure that our team members are suitably challenged, but they are also able to manage their time in the best possible manner to give the best possible output. And I think one of the things that I think it's a mindset that helps is to not imagine remote working to be any different from day-to-day office working in terms of the output that you should expect from your teams. It is not there are differences, of course, and we'll talk about that, but in terms of what we expect as deliverables, there should not be any let down in expectation or any sort of leeway given or even taken because it is a remote working environment. So that's the first thing, and I think that's important to also internalize, and not think of remote working as this new beast that will completely sort of change expectations and the way that corporates or startups go about their work. But yes, what I think we need to do, and that is not so much because of remote working, to an extent, yes, but because of the pandemic. What we need to do is perhaps recognize that today our team members are, do have additional responsibilities. They are taking care of more things than they were earlier because of the pandemic and the associated lack of, say, help, any sort of help, and they are having to do more, be it men or women. I mean, everybody is doing more than they were doing earlier. And in recognition of that fact, it becomes even more important for us as managers and as team leaders to help our teams prioritize. So, yeah. So that is, and that needs to be done at the very outset. So it does increase the need for planning to a certain extent. So earlier, if we were able to get by, say, by not having to plan to the extent where you know what the deliverable for the week is, for example, not having to do that level of planning. Today, that may be necessary, not just for you in terms of what you should expect from your team, but also to help your team focus on the right things, because it's important for them to manage their time well and not spend time doing things which are not likely to add value, or it's very precious time, not likely to add value to what you as a company intend to deliver. So I think that's one important factor. And as we go ahead, we will talk about some other aspects of how we could manage this as well.
Yeah. To
Rashmi, do you want to add something?
Yeah. To this point, actually, Shreya, so the point that Shreya is making, and I'm taking it away as the expectations are high, but we want to help them prioritize. At the same time, I think we should also kind of respect to some degree the boundaries that or the limitations that our people are having at this time. And we've seen some good examples of that happening. So different companies, you must have read also, some of you guys, about how, for example, Google gave a day off in the beginning of the pandemic. Then somewhere in the middle of the pandemic, again, they felt that the people were being, too much was happening, so they had to give a day off. We in our own company have been experimenting a little bit with the 4-day work week, so to speak. During some time of the pandemic, we realized that there was a lot of transition happening with people, but at the same time, I think what helped us is having clarity on what are the most important things that they have to deliver, and then let them also kind of take that onus of setting this goal along with the rest of the things they're doing in their life, and then help they also trust your people to have that kind of maturity to kind of deliver it according to what you have set out, and give some leeway and freedom for the issues that the pandemic has brought up. I think that's something that we've learned in this space. Yeah, so that's something that we've learned. Yeah. So this kind of covers some of what I think we wanted to talk about, priorities, and also we maybe can move to our second thing that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. The second aspect is remote first communication. So I think, when we moved when we started FlexiBees, the three of us were actually not in the same place also. So Rashmi was in Singapore, and I was in Bombay, and Deepa was also in Bombay at that time. But we were, Deepa and I also didn't meet too often. So we learned, I think, very quickly the ropes of remote communication. And imagine a co-founding team that is remote. I mean, that's the highest level of intensity of interaction that exists, and we very quickly learned how to speak, manage remotely, fight remotely, resolve arguments remotely, a lot of those things. Of course, I mean, we spoke a lot on the phone also, and today also we speak a lot, but a large chunk of also what the three of us speak is done remotely, as well as of our entire communication channels for our company, for FlexiBees, are set remotely. So for example, we have WhatsApp groups for each sort of unit and sub unit, and it's very clear what subjects will be discussed in each group, which is not something that we've actively set out and sort of created rules around, but by design the group itself is it comes together for a certain set of activities, and those are the things that are discussed, and a lot of it is discussed seamlessly on the group. People respond, questions are answered, updates are given, progress is given. A lot of those things happen on our remote chat groups, and I would say around around 60 to 70% of the work gets met through those channels. So I think that having that DNA in the organization, if you're planning to continue this for some time, having that DNA, that asynchronous to some extent, although teams during the day are always kind of present, or most times they kind of present, so there is not it's not like we are working in different shifts so much, like day shifts or night shifts, so then it's not even asynchronous to that extent, but it's remote. So having a remote first channel of communications, and training your team and your company to adapt those and pick up the phone and talk only when this first channel of communication doesn't work, will go a long way towards making everybody comfortable around remote working, and not making it seem like it's some extremely heavy burden that they need to carry. And how do you do a call with say 5 people coming in, some of those things. I mean, this is a very effective way of communication. Rashmi?
Yeah, and I think on this, one thing is the tool doesn't really matter which tool you choose. Like we have chosen WhatsApp because it kind of works well for us with all the people who are most comfortable. We have seen a bunch of other companies use Slack or any other such tool, but anything which enables you to create these groups and all that, which should be a great one. One very interesting thing, I think we realized this, and which I think I want to point it out, is that it's sort of an inadvertent consequence. Okay, so when we made these groups, it was for ease of communication. It was not for anything else. It was mainly just so we have this particular marketing team, ease of communication. Let's make a group for it. So like that. But then what we realized it did for us, and which we think is a great plus, and I think again moving forward for remote working, all companies realize it's a good plus, is that it actually created a very transparent culture around those groups, because it then became that you're actually being open. That whole group gets to see whatever you are saying, gets to see. Also, then people also start voicing their opinion also fearlessly. Then, it's like, imagine instead of, pulling your one person to a conference room and saying it, instead of that, if you could talk about it in the whole group where everybody, all the team members are there, if you were having, it's something like that, right? It's like having that open discussion without the disturbance that open discussion creates in an office atmosphere. So that to us actually became a plus. So we now realize that transparency that affords actually is a very good output, and we encourage you guys also to take some of that benefit in your companies. It may seem a little scary in the beginning, but you'll immediately start reaping those benefits. People will become more transparent, more open. Decisions will get made faster. Like Shreya said, a bulk of our decisions are made on WhatsApp as or a channel, or one of the, if it's Slack, it's Slack as a channel. It's just faster, better. So something I want to say.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there are so many the way that we use it actually now has evolved in so many ways. For example, when a new person comes to our team, we actually have a flow of when we add that person to which group. Because when a person comes in first, we add them say to the core group that we have, which everybody is part of. But as say for example, a salesperson, a BD salesperson who joins the group, at first they join the main core group. After a point they join the BD group. Then when they start getting projects and roles, then they join another group which has a recruitment team also on it. And
Different
when those
functions,
projects convert and they
basically.
move to the stage of contracting, then we add them to a group that has finance as well. And then finally, when it goes into post launch, we add them to a group that has operations as well. So it's basically like in the workflow of the company
Our
also
workflow
is
is
set
kind
in a
of
certain way
replicated in
because
our
we
group.
are able to manage it because
Yeah, it's very cool that way.
yeah, in the group structure that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, our marketing feedback is given on groups as well, and it allows us in fact time to think a little before reacting. When we are typing out, gives us clarity. So a lot of those kinds of benefits. So yeah, I which is, and or none of this is to say that you should not do phone calls, you should not do video chats. It's just that there are different use cases for each of these
Yeah.
modes of communication. But if you're planning to be a remote first company or remote
Moving to be a
primarily remote company, then you may want to think of this. Okay, now we next we'll talk about other virtual tools that exist. So there are multitude of tools, communication tools, project management tools, some of those things. So we at FlexiBees we use communication tools like the chat. WhatsApp is one of them, but we also use video conferencing tools. And I mean, we use the usual. Although maybe Rashmi, you want to talk about a little hidden gem of a tool that we have. We
Yeah.
can talk about that. It will be something
So
something
everybody
nice
uses
to give
Zoom
to
and
the
all, but
team.
we have
Yeah,
a
you want to talk about that?
yeah, we do use Zoom and Google Meet and all, but we also like landed upon a tool which we really like, which is called whereby.com, and we just discovered it. It's free and it does not have a time limit. It just has a people limit. You can only have 4 people. It's a great video tool. No need sign up, sign in, all of that. So we just found a very easy, good tool, which we can also put it on the chat later for you guys to go check it out. But we like it. We use
Yeah.
it quite a bit, and just like Zoom and all, which is easy also. It just needs a login. This one doesn't, so there's a added advantage to that. But like she said, I think find the right tool for you guys and use it. And yeah. I think another point I wanted to say around this, maybe.
Having said that, though,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Having said that, I do think that not it doesn't need to be a video call every time. Even phone calls, when you want to speak, even phone calls do the job. So I've seen in recent times a lot of talk around mandating people to be on video calls, making sure that their video is on, and some of those things.
Yeah.
But I just feel that I want to remind everybody about the fact that we are doing this work from home situation while going through a pandemic. And people have other folks at home as well. Not everybody has a isolated office space. There are sometimes kids running around. There are other people working in the same space. So I we don't feel the need to really tell people to really do video calls every single time. Audio calls can be very quick, and very and can meet the same objective as well. So not every call needs to be a video call. So
Yeah.
once in a while, of course, to get the bonding, to be able to see each other, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's some quick pieces of work. In fact, it'll be quicker. It'll be quicker if you're able to really pick up the phone and call people. And of course, less bandwidth consuming in this country of ours. That's also always a concern.
Yeah, many a time I think we start with a video call and
Yeah.
then somehow everybody then ends up in an audio call because the bandwidth can't support it anyways. I think the thing we want to talk about is a little bit about log on, log off times and boundaries. I think this is again, I think an interesting thing. Lots of people talk about this. Okay, one aspect is for us from the business side, we have found a lot of benefits of kind of having an understanding of when people are going to be around and when people are not going to be around. And ours is a completely flexible organization. In fact, many of our people don't even work full time. They actually, by design, work, half time or something. So it helps us for business planning to, in general, know availability. Everybody doesn't need to know everybody's, but whoever you work with, it's important, and it helps to know in general what the available times are. And what this does is, okay, I think one thing which this does, and which is again a point which is very important, is it also creates borders and things that this is not the time that they are available. It also creates that, just like as a business which times people are available, you also not only know that they won't be available for some time, you're also consciously respecting it, which I think a little bit we hear a lot, and we see a lot also. A lot of my friends, because one thing is we've been fully remote throughout, so for us nothing changed during the pandemic. But all of our friends, our spouses, almost all of them have gone through this whole change of completely non-remote organizations to completely remote working. So one of the big things that they all say has changed for them is that they don't seem to have boundaries in times anymore. It seems to be a huge fluidity of work in which and we think that maybe it's a problem. Maybe it's a transition, that it takes time for people to transition to remote. And so even something like, for example, I think commute formed the boundary. In the old world, commute was the boundary. So it's like you have to commute, you have to get to work, and you have to get away from work. So those found boundaries where you kind of put a stop. Now those are not there, which again we think will create problems in future. Of course, people, there's only so much that they can do, and we may not be getting the best of our people if we end up making them work longer than they should be. So we do feel that the boundary setting is important. I think we have to transition to that. Even in the remote world, you have to find those boundaries and say, hey, this probably is a good time beyond which you shouldn't be working. It can change according to your business and what the role is and the expectations around the role is. But this is something that we do feel that people should be doing if they are not doing. And we are seeing that a lot of people who have transitioned to remote are not really doing this. And this is causing maybe a little bit of problems for the employees also. And they don't realize it maybe themselves, that they are not setting the boundaries. But as maybe leaders, we should be the ones kind of doing that. Anything?
Yeah. And this also sort of feeds into the first point, which is how to manage time and priorities for your team. So how to manage time for your team is both ways. I mean, it's a solution, setting clear log in log of time solution that gives on both ends. It helps business figure out when to really reach out, and it helps people take better care of themselves. From here comes the next point, actually. The time that you should create for your employees to engage in deep work. So something again of a weird nature that has happened, that while we were in offices, perhaps and not for everyone, but for some of us, and from what we hear, that we were okay with them not constantly being around in front of our eyes. But now that everybody is working remotely, with some people, the need for knowing whether the person is online or not and available has kind of gone up. And we will address that later when we talk about trust and an enabling environment. But what that also does to business is that it doesn't allow some people to really work the way that they best prefer to work. There are some people who prefer isolation when they're doing certain kind of tasks. There are certain kind of tasks which are best done when when you're doing them in isolation. So any sort of thinking or creating some needs a little bit of isolation where you can be free of stimulus. the unwanted stimulus of people who would come and maybe talk to you. Um, so it's very important to recognize that some of your employees in some jobs might require, some time, say on a weekly basis, or whatever the job needs, to get off the grid, and not be available maybe at that time.
Yeah.
To be putting that time into thinking and creating and strategizing, putting something together which requires intense focus and concentration. So recognize that and make that time available for your teams. If that is something that your business needs. In fact, I can give my example over here. So have I have a unique sort of, I mean, not really very unique, but remote work cross pandemic hit. Remote work is not a hit, but pandemic is a hit, because all the help that I had has evaporated. Unique in the sense because I have a small kid, so I have a 2.5-year-old kid, and so I mean, the two of us, my husband and I, we're both working and difficult schedules, and we're both taking care of the kid and cleaning the house and cooking and all of that. This is the story of a lot of people out there. Now, but I do need to do a lot of work that requires me to take some time out, and that is something that also works for me as a person. So I then I've now set a schedule that I wake up at 5:30 around in the morning, and between 5:30 to 8:39 is the time that I spend doing some deep work. Some of my most productive hours are those. So of course, I don't have, I have stakeholders, but I don't have a boss, so I'm able to sort of set my own timing.
We know whom you work with. So, for example, the other co-founders, we definitely know her time slots. She's communicated those with us, and not but
yeah,
that's a good thing. So that
communication, of course, communication of
we have that.
Yeah. No, what I meant to say was that that for your team members, you may have to enable it. So you may have to actively figure out whether their role requires it, and when they have the time to put in, some amount of deep work. Yeah. Rashmi, you want to talk about the next thing?
Yeah, actually, I think we've kind of covered a lot of things, and I think the most the thread that you've heard in multiple of these points, I think, which you've not explicitly said, but a lot of the secret juice around, I think, remote working, successfully is around communication and trust. Largely these are kind of the solid grounds on which all these kind of points that we have spoken so far kind of converge, and we'll kind of maybe summarize some of what we have said earlier, and maybe even illustrate it with some other points using maybe these two things. I feel though the communication and trust, we'll talk about that a little bit now.
Yeah. So communication is something that is like the heart of our business, okay, and probably the heart of many successful remote first companies. So communication, communication for us is not just a means to do transactional day-to-day updates. Communication for us is a very important tool that lets us disseminate our vision, what our company stands for, to our remote and distributed team. So there are certain realities of a remote team that you have to understand. Of course, everything is not rosy. The fact is that people are sitting in their own sort of corners, and if you don't actively go and engage them in what it is that your company stands for, what it is that you are envisaging for your company, say this year, what is it that you guys want to achieve as a group together, how have you been doing over the last few months. A lot of these things, if you don't do these things very actively, then people have no way to know. Whereas in an in-office environment, these things people pick up, even if there is no formal way of spreading some of these conversations, or disseminating some of these conversations, people come to know. But in a remote environment, it's very important to be very intentional about these things. So we do that through different channels, through email, through our WhatsApp. We keep engaging people. We keep telling our people. Basically, there is no other fancy word for it. We want our people to know what we as a company stand for, what delights us, what makes us inspired to go and do, keep giving our best for the next 10 years or more to it. So we want our people to know and to feel the same excitement that we feel about working here every day. So we talk a lot about some of these things. In We've created some forums also around it. Yeah. So yeah, those things have really resulted in what we think is a very engaged team, where everybody knows what we are doing, what our plans are, and how we've done over the last few months, and what we plan to do in the immediate future. Some of those things are very important to us. And in fact, so much so, see, COVID was a time when a lot of startups went through a bad time. We, being a startup, also went through a little bit of a bleak phase. It wasn't very bad, to be honest, but it was it was definitely something. And it did require us to take certain hard calls and actions that we would otherwise. What we ensured through all of this we did was we communicated. So we made sure that our team knew where we were, and why we were doing the things that we were doing. And that's the least that we could do. That's the absolute least. You must do the right things, but you must also help people know why you're doing the things you're doing. So that has resulted in us coming through, and coming out of this period relatively sane, with the team as engaged or more than they were going into the pandemic. So yeah, communication is will be your best friend. You must use it wisely. You must use it a lot. And yeah, of course, there is also the day-to-day communication angle. Rashmi, want to talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah. So like Shreya said, I think the big things are definitely important, and we have always tried our best. And you guys should also go and I'm sure many companies also have very good ways of kind of communicating the big stuff also. So that is one thing, and super important that is. But also on the small things also, I think the small ways of communication also, in terms of bonding, it creates bonds. So even when we give our induction to our people whom we place in companies and remote roles, one of the biggest thing we say is communicate and over communicate. So you have to do almost like twice of what you would do in a non-remote environment. So if you ever think, hey, should I say this? You should probably say it. Hey, it's like that. If you're thinking, should I ping? Should I not? Should I ping? Should I not ping? You should ping. That's what our philosophy is with our people. What we tell our people also. So even the small ways of communication we do, we also try to do the informal things. Now that is really hard, actually. Remote, it is not an easy thing for us to have those informal bonding kind of sessions, but we found ways. So we do a Friday fun day on our WhatsApp group, so and we talk about some completely things unrelated to work, and we try to get to know everybody's life story a little bit. How did you meet your spouse? And one of those things, you have one question everybody talks about, and then you laugh, and then it's a lot of bonding, which we think definitely provides a nice oil grease to the whole organization, because we bond better, we communicate better. So I think daily stuff, the big stuff is definitely important. The daily stuff, the sometimes you could say agenda less communication sometimes. If you can, maybe you find something that you think somebody in your group would find it funny, so you put it on that group, and then people start laughing, and then it's completely agendaless. There's no other, it's something funny or something. So basically it's bonding in a very remote fashion, and all of those things have value. All those small things also add up
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
yeah.
And of course, I mean, you can in different roles require different kinds of communication in terms of say reviews or catch ups, even on work, and those things of course also. If again, even
That's all.
even if you're not were not doing them in a face to face environment, in a remote environment you should do it, especially in the beginning when you are just getting the hang of the remote working space. So it will help create a little more information and transparency, and will just help set the ball rolling. So yeah. And yes, out of all of this, of course, the second most important, in fact, not the second most important thing, but of the most important things, the second aspect is trust. And it's very connected to communication. If you communicate authentically, trust will get created. A lot of the things we've spoken about here are trust building. When you have transparency in your organization, when you're saying what you're saying to the entire team at once, which is what the our groups, when we spoke about, they enable for us, then trust automatically gets created. And trust is a cornerstone of remote working. I mean, there has been a lot of talk around it in the past few months on whether how do you know whether your people are working in a remote environment. And really, I mean, that's a very suboptimal way to look at business, because the only way to know that people in your organization are working should not be that they're right in front of your eyes, because that way you'll never be able to, or one will never be able to grow, or one will never be able to scale. And the trust is so important. It's become very important and a topic of conversation when we talk about remote work. But to be honest, it's as important even in an in-office environment, because a person who's running the business really cannot keep an eye on everybody, and people will always find ways to sort of escape the radar, even if you have people monitoring them. And really imagine the amount of bandwidth load it creates in everyone when people have to monitor others. And really, that's not the way that any work should be conducted, whether in office or remotely. So trust is very important. And I think we understand that there are we're not always in situations where you can trust the people that are working in your company. But I think the way to tackle that is to then hire right, and hire correctly, and not hire thinking that, okay, I don't know if this person will really do the job that they are being hired to do, but no worries, we'll have somebody monitoring them. That's really then a lot of load on your business and everything. So what we do is we make sure that we hire right. And in fact, we are in the hiring business, so we make sure we hire right for others also, who come to us for talent.
Yeah, shameless plug here.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's the business we are in. So yeah, I mean, hiring right is, I'm sure this is a no-brainer. A lot of us know it. But it can be done for every role, is what I'm trying to say. That a lot of us think that for senior roles and all, you spend a lot of time in the hiring process, and maybe that is warranted. But for junior roles, not needed. But yeah, I don't think the world we are living in is allows for that anymore. I think every role requires you to hire right, and look at people from the lens of skills, but also from the lens of their personality, commitment, if they are what your job means to them. And yeah, it really isn't a function of the pay or the job. So yeah, so trust is important, and you as a business owner need to plan for it by getting the right people in your team, who you then can trust to work from wherever that they may be situated. Doesn't matter. And equally, you need to give that trust to your team as well, to get the best out of them, because nobody likes to have somebody breathing down their neck. And yeah, keep an eye on the deliverable, keep an eye on the output, do a lot of that, as much of that as possible. But give people the freedom to bring their best. Yeah, so that for us is something that we would never compromise on.
I think maybe we can flash what we did earlier, just to give like a brief summary of all the different points we covered. Then Actually, if we are, now we are open for questions,
Yeah, yeah,
Shreya.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So this is
So,
the short infographic, and there is also an article on it, which also I can paste a link to. But yeah, uh, please feel free to ask any questions.
you can ask questions on the chat or in the questions tab, one of the
Yeah.
two. Okay, that is fine. You guys have any questions? Mm.
It'd be also interesting to know how many of you are thinking of going fully remote even after work from office becomes it's more allowed. So right now, I think it's 30% in India that work from office is allowed. But are any of you thinking of going fully remote even after the lockdown is lifted? That would also be interesting to know, and your experience on it and why you took the decision that you took.
Mm.
Okay, I think there are no questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, oh. There is a question. Okay. Hi, Aswad. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Swad. Okay.
Mm.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. So his question is, do you recruit male candidates as well? Um, we don't actually recruit male candidates, but thanks for the question. I think it's important. It's an important question in today's environment. We don't at the moment recruit male candidates because we started off with the dual vision of enabling flexibility for businesses to help them meet their goals, but also to help a lot of talented and qualified women who've dropped out of the traditional workforce to get back and to be able to uh, you know to be able to do justice to their qualifications and their background. So that was definitely a very important factor in why we started. And there is a huge pool of such women who are really great but do not want to or cannot get back to the full-time workforce. So we want to do justice to this pool before we move out and expand to a larger pool. But
Mm.
yes, we are monitoring the space to see what the triggers are, and what choices people and men are making today. And we see that more and more men are making choices to take up care roles, to take up care
Mm.
responsibilities. And yeah, if that becomes the new normal, and even before that becomes the new normal, we'd be happy to explore this. Thanks. Okay, so I think if there are any questions, then you guys can write to me. I can put my email ID over here. This is my email ID, and you can write to me at any point, and we'll be happy to answer. And I hope there were some positive takeaways from the chat, and we'd also be happy to hear your experience. And if there is, yeah,
Yeah, on remote working and how you guys
yeah,
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. Thanks for coming here. Thanks for listening to us give gyan about
Thank
remote
you.
work. And yeah, have a great day. Bye, guys.
Have a great day. Bye, guys.